introduction. We have heard something about neuroimaging, and I will focus on the possible role of neuroinflammation in psychiatry in general, or in different psychiatric disorders, and also on the possible mechanisms inflammation plays, and especially the mechanisms of how inflammation takes place, especially in young people or in young age, possibly even before the birth. I don't want to go too much into details about the interaction between the central nervous system, the endocrine system, we've heard about this already, and the immune system. There are different possibilities and different pathways of the communication between the peripheral immune system and the CNS immune system. These are just three examples how, for example, activated monocytes, but also macrophages, which are part of the so-called innate immune response, the first barrier of the immune response, and cytokines such as interleukin-6, TNF-alpha, and interleukin-1 beta, which are well-studied cytokines in psychiatric disorders, especially because they are quite stable to study, and that is an advantage compared to many other cytokines. How can they reach the brain? For example, about the circumventricular organs, because normally you have the blood-brain barrier. That means cells from the periphery cannot reach the brain, but at this special location, the circumventricular organs, there is no blood-brain barrier, and cells and cytokines can invade into the brain. Another way is around over the vagus nerve. Over the vagus nerve, there are possibilities to come from the peripheral immune system into the brain and to target certain brain structures. And of course, there are also cellular pathways that you know that immune cells are patrolling through the brain more or less all the time. A few immune cells, but for example, in the case of inflammation, there's a breakdown of the blood-brain barrier, and the immune cells can also invade into the brain. What has all this to do with psychiatric disorders? Because we know that the neurotransmitters such as serotonin, dopamine, or adrenaline are big players in psychiatric disorders. Just one example from an older animal model: if you put interleukin-6 into the peripheral of a mouse, for example, you can see an increase of the dopamine and serotonin in certain regions of the brain, such as the frontal cortex, such as the hippocampus, which means these are sensible parts of the brain which can be activated, or neurotransmitters can be activated by certain cytokines. Another example is the administration of interleukin-1 at birth, which affects dopaminergic neurons in the adulthood. That means you know that the immune system is a learning system, and psychiatric disorders such as schizophrenia are not disorders of the of early ages, normally the outbreak is in the early adulthood, and the administration, the early administration can lead to later disturbances in the dopaminergic neurotransmission. So, and are other examples that prenatal cytokine-induced vulnerability can lead to disturbances in the adulthood. That means, for example, if there's an activation of cytokines in the mother, then there are disturbances in the development of the central nervous system and possibly also an inflammatory neurodegeneration. And we also know that there's a kind of sensitization or conditioning of the immune system. So if there's a stimulus of the immune system, it can be conditioned, and in later the stimulus may not be so big in order to, for example, create an inflammatory reaction. We also know that in a lot of psychiatric disorders, such as schizophrenia, but also depression, stress plays a big role. And there's a connection also between the immune activation and the stress. This is another example for the prenatal immune activation. We know that it's associated with an increased risk for later schizophrenia, but together with stress in adolescence, these both the prenatal immune activation and the adolescent stress induce synergistically behavioral abnormalities and also neurochemical changes, for example, of the dopaminergic system in this animal model of schizophrenia. We also know from depression that early life stress is associated with an increased pro-inflammatory cytokine responsiveness and an increased risk of depression. One important paper is showing a relationship between early childhood stress, inflammatory markers, and the increased risk for depression in adult patients. So more or less that's what Sigmund Freud already told us, that things happened in early ages and early stages of the life. Another example is the so-called Dunbin study. In this study, there was a recording of inflammation markers such as CRP, fibrinogen, and leukocytes, and there was built a so-called inflammation factor, and over this was looked in a representative prospective birth cohort which was followed up over 32 years. And what was shown was a weak association between high sensitivity CRP values and depression, but there was a strong association of the increased CRP and this increased inflammation factor. In particular, combined in those patients or in those individuals, they were not patients, it was a birth cohort, but in those individuals who showed symptoms of depression and had also negative childhood experiences, there was this special strong association between inflammation and depression. Another interesting study which is looking for levels of the pro-inflammatory cytokines interleukin-6, both at the age of 9 years and the risk of psychiatric symptoms in early adulthood with 18 years, and these are turtles showing that those third of these individuals who had the highest levels of interleukin-6 had, with 9 years, they had the highest risk for psychotic disorder or also for psychotic symptoms at the age of 18. And in parallel, the same with an increased risk of depression at the age of 18. That means if you have an early pro-inflammatory state in childhood, then you have an increased risk later to show symptoms of psychosis or depression. And regarding to depression, in the meantime, we know that the cytokines may be responsible, at least partly responsible, for the blues. Due to time, I don't want to go too much into details here, but just showing that the inflammatory marker C-reactive protein is very often increased in depressed patients. And this was a study we performed in our hospital, and what we found was a significant correlation of increased levels of C-reactive protein and the severity of depression, but also not in a cohort of depressed patients, but in a cohort of healthy US Army personnel. There was a significant correlation between the symptoms of depression and the CRP levels. These are just examples about the relationship between inflammation and depression. And if we look for neuroimaging, you know, you can look with the positron emission tomography scan to the activation of the microglia, which represents the immune response within the brain. This is the so-called translocator protein density, what you can measure and it was measured by a group from Canada in 20 unmedicated patients. This is important because medication, of course, influences also inflammation. And there was a significant elevation of the microglia activation in the prefrontal cortex, in the nucleus accumbens, and in the insula, and especially between the ACC elevation, microglia activation, and the severity of depression. There was a significant correlation. But we know that inflammation not only plays a role in depression, also in schizophrenia. There are very similar results also with other markers, of course, here with the activation marker PK11 195. There's also an increase of the microglia activation, and from a Japanese group using another marker, the DAA 1106, and there's also a positive correlation between schizophrenic positive symptoms and the microglia activation marker. And a further example comes from Alzheimer's disease. Also here you can see an activation of the microglia again with this marker 11195, but also with a further marker PBR28. So in different psychiatric disorders, these are just examples, you can see that there are signs of neuroinflammation. If we look to the cytokines, and especially cytokines in the cerebrospinal fluid, not only in the peripheral blood. The cerebrospinal fluid represents much better what happens in the brain. And what you can see here, that in different psychiatric disorders here, in major depressive disorder in green, schizophrenia in red, and bipolar disorder in blue, there are increases. This is a meta-analysis. This is not just one study, it's a meta-analysis of different CSF studies. You can see, for example, interleukin-8 is a pro-inflammatory cytokine, also interleukin-6, and you can see here that in most, or that in different disorders, you see an increase compared to controls of these pro-inflammatory cytokines. Also here, the interleukin beta, and these are anti-inflammatory markers like the soluble interleukin-2 receptors, which is decreased here in the schizophrenic patients. We ourselves performed also a study on the relationship between stress, depression, and inflammation. Due to time, I cannot go too much here into details, just showing that there are higher scores in the childhood trauma questionnaire in depressed patients compared to the controls, also in the perceived stress scale, which means the actual stress situation, and also a list of threatening experiences questionnaire, that means threatening experiences within the last year. So lifelong or childhood trauma, actual stress, and last year experiences were measured. And what you can see here is that with the perceived stress, there was a significant difference, and also with the LTE, and due to time I cannot show all the results, but there was also a significant difference, or significant higher levels of interleukin-6 in the patients, and also significant higher levels of interleukin-10. Interleukin-10 is an anti-inflammatory cytokine which increases when an inflammation takes place. I cannot go here into details regarding the tryptophan-kynurenine mechanism, just saying that this is also driven by the immune system, and also here we see significant differences and significant higher marker of neurodegeneration in depressed patients. The last point I want to mention are the genes, because we know that depression, schizophrenia are at least partly genetic disorders, and there are, for example, for schizophrenia, here in more than 40,000 cases, data that show that in schizophrenia the immune genes seem to play the biggest role regarding the risk for later becoming schizophrenic, especially in the HLA region, which is the genetics of the immune system. But also, for example, in Alzheimer's disease, there are risk genes which are related to the immune response. And last point, regarding the therapy. Of course, if we have an inflammation, we would expect that an anti-inflammatory medication has a benefit in inflammatory disorders. This is a meta-analysis showing just this for schizophrenia. This is a meta-analysis effects of anti-inflammatory treatment in depression, just showing that this kind of treatment has a positive impact also for depression. And these are data from Alzheimer's dementia, not showing that anti-inflammatory medication has a therapeutic effect, but it has a preventive effect. For example, in patients of arthritis or rheumatoid arthritis, this is also meta-analysis showing those who had a long-term treatment with non-steroidal antiphlogistics during their lives, they had a much lower risk to become Alzheimer's dementia later. Let me shortly summarize. We know that neuroinflammation is involved in major psychiatric disorders. I showed example for major depression, schizophrenia, Alzheimer's disease. I showed not examples for tic disorders. I have some with me, but time is running. We know there is evidence for a slight localized inflammatory process in psychiatric disorders, possibly in different regions of the brain that may be responsible for different symptoms. Epidemiological studies show that the number of prior severe infection increase the risk for later depression, schizophrenia, and also for cognitive decline in a dose-dependent manner. Means those who had a lot of infection later have a higher risk, for example, to become demented. The vulnerability stress model is important for major psychiatric disorders, and we know that, and there are a lot of data in the meantime, that stress is associated with neuroinflammation. Genetic studies point to an important role of the immune genes in schizophrenia. In depression, I did not show that, and for example, also in Alzheimer's disease, neuroimaging results underline the microglia activation, an inflammatory process in the brain in schizophrenia, depression, Alzheimer's disease, and also you have seen that the meta-analysis show that anti-inflammatory medication has therapeutic effects in different psychiatric disorders, protective effect in Alzheimer's disease, and for example in tic disorder also immune therapies have a role. And on last not least, the antipsychotics and antidepressants, there are also a lot of study. We know that they also have slight anti-inflammatory effects. Thank you very much for your attention.